Hello, my name is Brenna, and I am doing Debate 1, Side B, talking about setbacks with the exportation of textiles and garments and how it usually negatively affects developing countries and how we need policy adjustment as to fix that. So, most of us realize that our clothing does come from other countries, but we don't always think about what it went into making it. So when talking and thinking about countries that develop textiles for export, there's like some grab words that might hit you first that you think about. When I think of the textile industry, I think of like fast fashion, underdeveloped nations, and extreme but dangerous working conditions. And most of the places that people in the United States get their clothing from are countries that have um, to work at a cheap wage because anything is better than no wage in their condition. So these are in extremely impoverished, underdeveloped countries. And so when they have to ship out these garments that they make to other countries, they're barely getting like a mere percentage of what the clothing company itself is receiving once the item is sold to us, the general consumer. So, what I wanted to do was take the fast fashion portion of the textile industry and kind of dive into that. And I would define it personally as like the immediate replication of mainstream fashion produced cheaply in order to get it to the market as fast as possible. And it definitely has its like own dark side. The fast fashion, it has its own negative connotations within it, and these are companies like H&M, Forever 21, Zara, just like mass producing companies that come out with a new thing every month, it seems like. It's just the quickest production of what was just on the runway weeks earlier. So these fast fashion industries in underdeveloped countries have factories that where people are working for 12, 14, 16 hours a day and sometimes are only getting paid about what is $1 a day. This is in places like Bangladesh, Cambodia, and some places in Africa as well. And to make things worse, the conditions are usually pretty awful, and some people are even like shamed for taking a break because they're supposed to be doing their whole shift at once. And so in 14 hours you would have to leave, but these people are not allowed to. And so they're shamed for even taking bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, leaving their stations. And it's even been noted that in some factories they'll lock you in until you're completed with your stock, and so you can't leave until all your stock is made, which would never happen in the US. Everybody would be let go strictly at 5 p.m. or whatever time you clock out. On the other hand, to qualify, it is a good thing that these developing nations do employ so many people because that means there is money going into the economy. There is money to put a shelter over their heads and food on the table. But it is being built off the back. These markets are being built off the backs of suffering people. There's unsafe working conditions, and also one of the biggest contributors to injury, harm, even death. So are the people working in fast fashion. So what you would be asking next is what can be done to prevent all these um, malicious sides of fast fashion. And the first thing you could say was just shut down the factory, shut down the industry. Well, that can't work because that's going to take away hundreds of necessary jobs that people need in order to survive. So one of the next best options is to change the policies surrounding these corporations. The UN is currently working on making more policies so that the fashion industry becomes more sustainable and that their waste emissions decrease. So that will help globally. There is what is called the Ethical Fashion Initiative, or EFI, and they're working hard to give those who are making cheaply produced garments a living wage and a safe place to live so they're able to provide for their families. And this group specifically works with artists from Africa, and they want to showcase their talent by having them work with other fashion mentors and icons so that their designs and skills can be seen and utilized on a larger scale. And then that collective idea aids in bringing a certain village or region out of poverty because it is giving them the limelight. Another policy reformation idea is just to change within the country that these people are working in. It's easier, or it sounds easier than what it really is, because just cutting their hours or paying more is not always something that can be done. These people need to work as much as they possibly can in order to make a living wage. And because of the specific country's rate of inflation and how much their money's worth, sometimes they can't afford to be paid more. So compared to the world, it's like they're getting paid significantly less than minimum wage in the United States. So there needs to be continual capital contribution to their economy, or it could collapse. And I know to wrap up, I know I'm guilty of contributing to the fast fashion craze, but it's clearer to me now that there needs to be some type of intervention in order to keep nations developing further and have their people employed of a livable rate. This will need to come with a policy change, and maybe it has to start with the international level, but the country in need will also hopefully be on a new wave of fashion and its impact on the world.